middle of a Lenton series, a series called The Crosses of Lent. And if my old memory serves me correct, we've already discussed the cross of temptation and the cross of suffering. Today we will be discussing the cross of passion, more specifically, Jesus' passion for people. Because I don't know if you knew that, but God loves people. Isn't it nice that you're right up in front so I can come right in your face? Isn't that great? Charles is great. Anyway. Well, you know, we like, as believers, we like to say that everyone is valuable, significant, and important to God. Right? We like to say that. And therefore, everyone is valuable, significant, and important to us too, right? But we don't always act. I want to tell you a story this morning. I like stories. I'm going to pick on you, see, because you're visitors. I got to pick on you. I'm sorry. I'm a dad too, so I'm sorry. I want to tell you a story about someone who people didn't really think was very important or significant or valuable. But in God's eyes, really, really was. His name? I don't like having to use this microphone. His name was Zacchaeus. His profession was he was a chief tax collector. And you all know how much we love tax collectors. Well, Zacchaeus was rich. And he was rejected by the people. And he was, as I said, the chief tax collector. And he lived and had his business in Jericho. Let me read you from the scriptures this morning and tell you a little bit about Zacchaeus. I'm going to be reading from Luke chapter 19. Sorry about all the noises. What happens when you carry a microphone? Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but being a short man, he could not because of the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up to him and he said, Zacchaeus, come down. Come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, he's gone to the house of a sinner. But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times that amount. And Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save what was lost. As I said, Zacchaeus was rich. And he was also rejected by the people. Try not to be close. Just doesn't move smooth, does it? Nope. You know, as I said, tax collectors were looked upon as well then as they are now. And the way the system was working, see, I think it was more like the original multi-level marketing system, honestly. Because you had Rome, and they were like the business people. They had the product. And you would have the chief tax collector who was kind of employed by them. So the chief tax collector would have to pay Rome. And then they would hire people out to collect the taxes from the people, and they could charge whatever they wanted. So hopefully they would get a product, a profit. Okay? So back then, those people were looked down upon. You know, they were traders. Today we call them good businessmen. So that was Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector. Jesus was passing through town. He was on his way to Jerusalem because he had an appointment with a cross. So he's passing through. And Jesus was very popular, see? He'd made quite a reputation for himself. See, he had healed a lot of people. He befriended a lot of people. He was known as a friend to sinners and to outcasts, to throwaways, to the unaccepted. So this great crowd forms, and it's like a parade. All these people are lining up where Jesus is going to be passing through because they want to see him. Now Zacchaeus heard that Jesus was coming too, and he wanted to see who this Jesus was. Because he heard of Jesus' reputation, and he wanted to catch a glimpse. But the problem with Zacchaeus was he was a short man. In fact, somebody came up with a song that said, Zacchaeus was a wee little man. A wee little man was he. So Zacchaeus, moving around, he's trying to see. He's trying to find himself a place in line where he can kind of look around and see this Jesus he's passing through. But the crowd's not going to let him through. And why should they? This man's a traitor. He's been getting extra money from them. So they're not going to give Zacchaeus a break. But Zacchaeus kept trying. He kept trying. He wanted to see Jesus. And I wonder why. I wonder why it was so important that Zacchaeus was desperately trying to find a way to see Jesus. I think it's because Zacchaeus knew something was missing. Something was missing in the heart of Zacchaeus. See, he was wealthy. He had a great 401k plan. He was ready to retire. You know, he had it going. He had his nice cars. He had everything that he needed. But there was a void in Zacchaeus. Wealth was not enough. He had met all his material goals. But I think he had a restless heart. He knew something was missing, but he didn't know what. Didn't have any friends, so nobody was going to be able to answer him. He couldn't go talk with them. But he had heard the reputation of this Jesus. He said, wait a minute, he's a friend of sinners, tax collectors. Maybe he knows the answer. In fact, he had even heard that Jesus had a friend, a guy named Matthew, tax collector himself. So maybe this Jesus might be able to help. Maybe Zacchaeus felt a little bit like the prodigal son. Do you remember the prodigal son story? You ever heard that one before? Huh? I don't know. Prodigal son. Had a dad, 2 sons. The younger son said, hey Dad, you know, I know normally you would give me your inheritance when you pass away, but I'd like it now, please. So I'm going to go ahead and take that inheritance. And he took it and he ran off and he went to town and he was gambling and doing all kinds of bad stuff. He blew all his money and made some mistakes. He made some bad choices like we all do at times. And he wasn't a whole lot different than probably a lot of us are at times. And then this prodigal son said, you know what? I have messed up. And I need to come back home, but I don't think I can. Because I made a real fool of myself. I made some poor choices. So Zacchaeus perhaps felt like he had made some poor choices too. And he wanted to return, but to what? To whom? He lost all his friends, right? Because he was collecting money from them. And he didn't know how to get past his own mistakes and his own failures. Does anybody else ever feel that way? Or are we all just too good? So he didn't know where to go, but he thought maybe this Jesus, maybe he would be different. Because as I said, Jesus hung out with tax collectors and sinners. So in a moment of crazy desperation, because little Zacchaeus, he can't see. In a moment of desperation, he grabs his robe and he brings it up. He does this Michael Jackson thing. He pulls his robe up. And he takes off running. And he goes running. And he goes jumping up a tree. Climbs up a tree. Okay? He throws all respect and dignity to the wind by doing that. Because you know, respectable people don't hike up their robe and they don't run and they sure don't go jumping up a tree. So Jesus is walking along, and as he's walking along on his way to Jerusalem, he looks up. He spots him. He says, Zacchaeus, come on down, boy. Zach, come on down. I want to have lunch with you today. I'm going to come to your house. We don't know how he knew that Zach was up there. We don't know that he knew why he knew that his name was Zacchaeus. Maybe it's because he was Jesus. Maybe it was because the Holy Spirit spoke to him. Maybe it was because Matthew, that tax collector, was part of the parade and he told him that he was there. We don't know. But what we do know is that Jesus called him by name. Something pretty doggone powerful about Jesus calling you by name. And you know what? Jesus knows every one of our names. Whether we come to church or whether we don't. Whether we're a believer or whether we don't believe in much. Jesus knows us by name. Because he knows us. None of us are anonymous to God. In fact, every one of us has such love for God, has such love by God in his heart, that I need to read this to you this morning. I'm going to read to you from Psalm 139. I want you to just listen to it, please. Just listen to it. Oh Lord, you have searched me, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You know what I'm thinking. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, before I say a word, you know it completely, Lord. You hem me in, behind and before, and you've laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty. It's too crazy for me to even understand. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you're there. If I make my bed in depths, you're there. If I rise on the wings of dawn, if I get up really, really early and I settle on the far side of the sea, even there, your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, you know what, darkness, surely darkness will hide me, and the light will become night around me. Even darkness will not. It won't be dark to you. Night will shine like the day, because darkness is as light to you. For you created my inmost being. You You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Every one of us, believer, non-believer, church member, non-church member, has been fearfully and wonderfully made by God. And God's works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body, and all the days ordained for me were written in your book. Every day of my life was written in your book before one of them came to be. Man, if y'all don't know that God loves you, you know, Jesus had people eyes. People eyes. He was always personal, one-on-one. See that be like me coming over here? See, I look right like this is you. See, it's people eyes, right? One-on-one, right, John? One-on-one. There are no insignificant people to Jesus, because he can see what other people can't, what other people won't. There is no one that's not worth Jesus' effort. Well, Zacchaeus was astounded. But the crowd? Well, they were a crowd. They were pretty upset and offended. Doesn't he know who he is? He's going to his house, have lunch. Zacchaeus, the chief tax collector? Really? That's just crazy. It's like he's condoning sin. I mean, at least share the gospel with them. For spiritual law is something. But Jesus did not operate that way. Jesus surprised him with his grace. Grace. His beautiful, pure, unmerited, undeserving grace that we all need every single day. Christianity today states that grace is the opposite of karma. Karma is where you get what you deserve. Grace is getting what you don't deserve. Grace is the love of God to those who are unlovely. It's the peace of God to the restless. It is the unmerited favor of God. While we would like to say that we are all like Jesus, I think sometimes we have a tendency to be more like that crowd. We're gracious to our own as long as we get our own way. I'll watch out if we don't. If you disagree with us, or if you are not one of us, or you don't say it the way we say it, or sing it the way we sing it, but Jesus met Zacchaeus with unconditional love and acceptance. Perfection was not required first. Not even repentance. Remember repentance? You were walking this way, and then you say, I'm not following God. I'm not doing it the right way, so I'm going to change, and I'm going to do it this way. Jesus didn't even require that repentance before he went to lunch with Zacchaeus. Now, I'm not saying that if you're going to follow Jesus, that you don't need to make a change, that you don't need to repent to follow Jesus. But what brings repentance? How can we help the Holy Spirit? I'll tell you what doesn't help is by throwing someone's failures in their face. It doesn't help to tell them what they're doing wrong. It doesn't help to call them sinners or tell them they're going to go burn in hell. We help people come to know Jesus by loving them, by being kind, by being a friend, by building relationships with them, by showing them the same unconditional love that Jesus shows all of us. Here's a good word for you. Unconditional love has the power to change people. Let me say it a different way. Unconditional love has the power to transform people. It's a story of Fred Craddock. Fred Craddock was a seminary professor. Fred Craddock, when he went, him and his wife, he was going to Yale University. He was doing a presentation at Yale, and he told the story there that him and his wife had gone back to Gatlinburg, Tennessee for a visit. And while they were there, it was just a little getaway, just husband and wife getaway. And so they wanted to make sure that they were private, had a little time to themselves. So they found this nice little restaurant. They sat in the back, and they just kind of wanted to do their own thing. And they saw a distinguished gray-haired gentleman walking around talking to people. It wasn't me. I want you to know that, okay? So Craddock is whispering to his wife. He goes, I hope that guy doesn't come over here because I'm going to have this time with my bride. But the man noticed them over there at the table. He came right on over and said, where are you folks from? Craddock said, we are from Oklahoma. Said, oh, that's a nice place. I've heard. I've never been there, but I've heard that Oklahoma's a really nice place. What do you do for a living? So, I teach at the seminary. Oh, you teach preachers. Oh, I have a story for you. And Craddock goes, of course you do. I was thinking this because, everybody's got a preacher's story, right? I'm giving you one right now. He says, let me tell you about it. So he pulls up a chair. He sits at the table with Mr. Craddock and his wife. The man stuck out his hand. He says, my name is Ben Hooper. I was born just over the mountain. My mother wasn't married to my father, so I never knew who my dad was. So as you can imagine, growing up, it was kind of rough for me. So school pretty much sucked. Really. Because, all my classmates, they treated me bad. They said bad things about me. They called me names that I don't want to repeat to you today. Recess and lunch, they were terrible. I used to have to get away from them because their eyes would be burning and they would be looking at me. And I felt the heat of them looking at me. And I felt bad because they were wondering, who's his dad? And Saturdays when we would go downtown, it was even worse because these people would be looking at me like there was something wrong with me. They'd all be looking at me like, who's your father? Oh, it made me feel so uncomfortable. I used to go to church on Sundays. And one day, a new pastor came. And I used to go to church late, and I used to leave early because I didn't want to be caught up in the crowd, because I didn't want to hear their comments. I didn't want to hear what they said about me. But I could feel their eyes burning. So I'd come in late and leave early. One day, that new pastor, he finished early. I know it doesn't happen here. Sorry. But he finished early. And I got stuck in the crowd as I was going out the door. And all of a sudden, as I was heading out the door, I felt this hand on my shoulder. And I turned around and looked, and it was the pastor. Who are you, boy? Who's your father? Lord. I felt that old weight coming down on me. It was like a big black cloud. Even the preacher was going to put me down. But as he looked down at me, studying my face, you know where I'm going, don't you, John? I see you look. A big smile came on his face. He says, wait a minute. I know who you are. I see the family resemblance. You're a child of God. Amen. Yes. That's who you are. You're a child of God, boy. Then he reached down and hit me on my rump. He says, you have an amazing inheritance. Go and claim it. So the old man looked at the table and he said, you know what? That was the most powerful sentence I'd ever heard from anybody. It changed my life. And with that, he shook Mr. Craddock's hand, his wife's hand. He said, y'all take care, enjoy your dinner. And he put his chair away and went on to visit with somebody else. And suddenly, Fred Craddock remembered that there were 2 times in the history of Tennessee that they had elected an illegitimate to be their governor. And his name was Ben Hooper. Church, there are many broken people. There are many hurting people. There are many lonely people. But there are no little people. People are searching, often for love, for hope, for purpose, or even why they exist. I'll bet you these ladies up here know classmates that have got some struggles, and they're trying to figure out, why in the world am I even around? And they look for answers in all the wrong places. Our brokenness can touch someone else's brokenness and allow them to see Jesus. It's like one beggar telling another beggar where to find food. See, God uses broken people like me and broken churches like us to heal people and be stronger than they were before. The love of God, so strongly seen in Jesus and found in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, is what will draw people to Jesus and let them know that they truly are disciples. Oh, so I got to finish the story. So Zacchaeus, well, he comes down the tree. And he stood there and he said to Jesus, Lord, right now, I give half of what I've got. Half of everything I've got. I'm giving it to the poor right now. And if there is anybody that I have cheated out of anything, I'm going to pay it back 4 times. Quite a transformation, I think. And Jesus told Zach, today's salvation has come to this house. Because this man, too, is a son of Abraham. Because the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. Those of us who call ourselves followers of Jesus need to ask Jesus to help us to have people eyes. Improve our people eyes. We need to ask Him to help us to put on our Jesus glasses so that we can see people through Jesus' eyes. Because remember, there are no little people in God's eyes. And there shouldn't be any little people in ours. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your holy word. We thank you, God, that no matter who we are, you know everything about us, all the good and all the bad. And sometimes that is frightening because we don't want anyone to know what's inside. But what's comforting is the fact that we also know that because you know everything that goes on inside of our heads, inside of our hearts, you still love us anyway. We're oh so grateful for that. Lord, thank you for the word that shows how much you love us, how much you care, and that there are no little people in your eyes. And I pray for myself and I pray for our family here this morning that you would help all of us to put on our Jesus glasses. I pray that you would help all of us to see people as you see people, to love people as you love people. That we would get out of the way and that you would just work through us to make a difference in the lives of other people. We ask this in Jesus' name.